Okay, we already know I don't edit my intros quite yet. Maybe if I get more traction, I would start doing that. But for right now, I think it's cool how I do it. But anyways, today we're going to be talking about the murder of Tyree Nichols, which is you know, among other things, one of the saddest stories that we've seen in the past couple of months. So I'm sorry about that. Where pretty much this young black dude, I think he was 24 years old. He was what was he doing? He was like literally just probably going home from work or driving his car home in like a gray Dodge Charger, I believe, and a couple of cops basically pulled him over and dragged him out of the car and basically beat this dude to death. And he didn't really do anything to escalate it. I would play the video myself, but I really don't want to do that because my YouTube channel is pretty new. I don't want to be viewed as somebody that's promoting violent content, and it's pretty much like cut and dry. Because they are charged, all five of the cops or six now that were involved in it, and it was just 15 minutes of this dude getting like brutalized by the police. Some people might say like, oh, he didn't comply because he got up and ran, because he was on the ground and they were still kicking him and putting him in arm bars and tasing him and macing him in the face. So if somebody is doing it to you, all that, because let's be real, because a lot of people that say that, oh, he should have just complied and stayed on the ground and got beat and kicked right there instead of at least attempting to escape. Ain't nobody gonna. It doesn't matter like what law enforcement you are. Ain't nobody gonna just sit down and let nobody beat and kick them and shit. You're gonna try to get away. So anyway, I'm going over the Fox News Tucker Carlson response where they basically, well, we'll see, we'll see. That's not good. Actually, shit.
Level of judgment, but that video is awful in a lot of ways. But here's what it's not. It's not an example of racism, systemic or otherwise. The man on the
Yes, it
ground.
is. Yes, it is. As a matter of fact, here's a hot take. We can do the systemic analysis about how the system of policing is designed to hurt black and Latino people in the first place. But we can also say this one thing that a lot of people don't really like to say, especially like a lot of white leftists. But I'll say it as a black person. A lot of black police officers are racist pieces of shit who hold the same bias against their own people as their white counterparts and shit. There's a lot of black police officers who put on the. It's like don't get me wrong. There's some good ones who, a few of the good ones that put on the badge and, they're actually trying to do the right thing within the institution that they're working in. But it's a lot of black police officers. Look at Brandon Tatum or James Craig. That's a famous one that's not even related to YouTube politics at all. Who have very right wing beliefs about their own people, saying that black people are lazy, people need to be held accountable. They're anti-choice. They are people who view their job of policing as controlling animals rather than being peacekeepers or policing the community in a positive way. There are so many black police officers out there that are like that, and we don't talk about that shit enough. We try to pretend like everything is systematic, but a lot of the shit that's happening to people, even if it's not a white police officer that does the thing, it's still a matter of interpersonal racism to some extent, which can not necessarily be proven, because like, okay, if somebody is a racist piece of shit, they can constantly just say I'm not racist over and over again. But trust me, even in some of the situations little old me have been in, I know Now, there's a lot of black cops that harbor prejudiceness against their own people. Not to mention the systemic effect where police militarization is designed in a way to hurt colored people and poor people in general, and even poor white people. Yeah,
Who was killed or died in any case was black, but so was every police officer you just saw hitting him. So, by the way, is the police chief of Memphis. So is most of its city government. So also is the overwhelming majority of the city of Memphis itself.
it doesn't matter as long as the system is designed in a way to hurt poor people and by extension hurt minorities like colored people, black people, Latinos especially. You are still, and even working class white people, you're still gonna see a disproportionate amount of police brutality and arrest and harassment towards people of color. That's just the way that the system is designed, man. I don't know what to fucking tell you.
So whenever you think of them, white people did not play any role in this particular tragedy.
I mean, yes, they did. I mean, you can say that these guys were in a gang enforcement unit, which is directly tied to the shit that's happened through the drug war, which is in part started by the Nixon administration. And you, all your little cronies and butt buddies, perpetuate the myths about how drug addicts are people that just need to be dealt with and how black people are just not taking accountability, which leads to a white supremacist system of policing that in y'all propaganda is so rich and so disgusting that it even infects the minds of not just some black people, but even black police officers.
Whatever the story may be about, it's not
And other black people with institutional power. Look at Clarence Thomas.
racial bias. Any honest person could see that immediately.
And you can also note that even, a group of black police officers would not snatch a white guy out of the car and beat the shit out of him like that. That probably is very unlikely to happen. I'm not saying that it can't happen, but it's less likely. When people in these institutional power groups see a black person with black skin, they automatically determine your level of humanity by what color you are.
Know it from watching the so-called news coverage of this tape today. The only person whose race most media outlets identified was the victim. Another unarmed black man murdered by the police, they said. Moments ago on MSNBC, they just described what you just saw as white supremacy.
Yeah.
Really, how?
Easy.
CNN's
I just told you twice. That how. Like, it's easy. The institutions that are meant to hurt poor people disproportionately hurt people of color, and it's a lot of black cops with white supremacist worldviews. It's easy, Tucker. I don't understand why is it so hard for you to understand. Like, I haven't even been to college, and you got all these degrees, you make millions of dollars and shit, but you just don't get it. What is wrong with you, man?
Who hit Tyree Nichols were black, but, quote, they might still have been driven by racism. And Jones didn't take the time.
Yes. I don't know what to tell you. I don't think I'm gonna get anything outside of this video like I thought, because that was a simple two answers.
In which every single participant and their supervisors was the same color.
So
Biden lectured the United States that, quote, fatal encounters with law enforcement have disparately impacted black and brown people.
yeah.
So the one thing we know, no matter how you feel about the video, and most people
And Tucker Carlson and all the rest of the right-wing zealots, whether it's like, the Daily Wire or, Blaze or any of these other motherfuckers, they don't give a fuck about white people that get beat by the police either, man. They just are, they're just talking out of their ass right now.
But the one thing we know for sure is that there is a highly aggressive propaganda campaign underway tonight designed to manipulate you and using the sad death of a young man in Memphis to do it. That propaganda campaign, like all propaganda campaigns, is by definition.
So why did it happen, Tucker? Did they just beat them to death because they were black? Is that what you're saying?
But it's more than that. It's worse than that. This is yet another attempt by our leaders of our country to inflame racial hatred in the United States.
Against
How
who?
can anyone ever do that?
You tell me. You do it. Oh, this whole ass nigga got some nerves, bro. This entire show is nothing, bro. Especially if you go back to 2020. And even like, the years prior, this motherfucker invites on every dipshit black conservative and every fucking thing. This dude entire program is nothing but inciting racial hatred. And he got the nerve to try to play stupid time about, oh, why would somebody want to do that? And he's just promoting the white supremacist race war myth that this is being, perpetuated to promote a race war, quote unquote, against white people, even though it's more of a war against the system that we live under in general. Which is white supremacy. If that makes you uncomfortable, that's a you problem. You need to self introspect on why you feel that way. Point being is that this son of a bitch does nothing but perpetuate racial hate, from the great replacement shit to every single little thing that happens to a black person. This entire fucking network of Fox, the national news especially, is dedicated to nothing but smearing civil rights.
But they're doing it anyway. Why? We can't say for certain, but we can't help but notice that the last time we had race riots in this country, an incumbent president, lost re-election. There was a point. So Joe Biden,
because fuck him, that's why.
Senile might be concerned by this. But whatever the intent of lying about what you just saw might be, we know that it's evil, and we are beginning to suspect that the violence expected in Memphis tonight is not organic. It's not just outraged people taking to the streets. Why are we guessing that?
And the funny part about it, there was no violence or rioting after this happened.
Violence is also expected tonight in cities across the country as we speak.
It didn't happen.
Antifa is coordinating riots on
what the fuck, bro? Where did that come from?
Portland, Oregon, Los Angeles, California, as well as Atlanta, Georgia, New York City, suburban.
They made a fucking poster, bro. These people are. One day we gotta do a deep dive into what Antifa actually is and what these activist people actually do. Some of which can be, kind of sketchy and violent, but for the most part, they are not some group of people who band together in meetings to go beat up police officers or attack white people or whatever the fuck he says. It stands for Anti-Fascist Action. Antifa is, a very historical movement going all the way back to just before and during the Second World War. And like I said, I feel like, this dude named his name, Abigail Thorne name, he did it. Well, she did it as Philosophy Tube, which it was Ali, I think. And that's one of the best. Oh yeah, and Renegade Cut. You can go find their video on what Antifa is and what Antifa actually does. But Abigail Thorne has an old video before they transition. That's a good one. And Renegade Cut has a good video for for this subject too. And you can find out in depth about what Antifa actually is and what it does. And if you ask me, Antifa does absolutely no harm to society. And if Antifa scares you, that's more of a you thing. You need to be introspective about why you feel like you would be targeted by a protest movement called Anti-Fascist Action. Are you promoting fascism? Are you supporting fascist speakers? Are you a neo-Nazi? Are you a white supremacist? Are you so happily saying that you're the innocent centrist that stands in the middle but constantly promoting right-wing bigotries and shit? Are you some right-wing dipshit who went to a protest to fight and beat up so-called little gay women or something like that, and then they beat the shit out of you? You need to ask yourself why and how that happened to you, and explain to yourself why you were a target of a movement called Anti-Fascist Action. That sounds like a you problem, and it doesn't sound like it's a they and a us problem.
In Washington, D.C., etc., etc. Barricades are going up right now in Times Square. The NYPD is worried about attacks on police and potentially public transportation.
None of this happened.
Our rage is stronger than their power, declared the Antifa chapter in Frederick, Maryland. Of course, by morning we'll know if that's true, but we already know there's a lie embedded in the claim. Our rage? We get so mad watching CNN that we took to the streets and set police stations on fire or whatever they plan to do?
No, if these people do anything, you can, if you want to morally weight this, these people are justified at the shit that they do. Because for every murder by the police we see, there's a story that not every person on the planet has, but a lot of, black people, Latinos, poor white people, Arab men and women, and, all races of people. Anybody who works for a living. It doesn't matter if you work at a restaurant, if you work at Amazon, if you drive a fucking street sweeper. A lot of different people in many demographic groups, whether they work for a living, even the people that are drug addicts and shit like that, and the homeless. There's stories about police brutality and police misconduct that don't make the news all the fucking time. And if these people are angry, that's the reason why. It's because it seems like our institutions say that everybody's supposed to be equal under the law, but the police and a lot of politicians, especially Republican politicians, seem to always get away with the crimes that they commit. So these people, if you want to morally frame this, about who's angry, who's not angry, these people, to some extent, have a right to be angry about the things that they're angry about. I don't promote any of the violence that they do, but the righteous fury that they feel for the shit that these people probably have personally been through, the stories they've personally heard, and all the shit that we don't hear about, is justified.
What's happening? Antifa is not a bunch of hooligans. These are not idle kids who just appear out of nowhere because they're so mad about what they saw on cable news. Or
the enemy must be strong and weak at the same time, huh?
Antifa is a political instrument whose actions always are intended to affect a political outcome. Period. Antifa does not appear by accident. Antifa appears with a purpose to affect a political outcome. Every single.
I feel like Antifa, the only time I ever see or hear about them, because I'm just an innocent centrist just standing in the middle of all this, the only time I see Antifa is when fascism appears. You see people that are, doing anti-fascism, you know? and I guess that's the best way you can put it, because it's not a group of people, it's more of something that you can do. People only do anti-fascism when fascists come around. Like, it's funny how that works.
And if there's one criticism of the rest of us watching this at home, it's that we often miss that. Because every channel is telling us something terrible happened, here's a video of it, and sometimes the video is terrible. And then they imply that because of this video, the emotions of the people watching just erupt into rage and violence. But that's not what's happening. Antifa is being organized by whom? We don't know. Why don't we know? To do what? We can't say right now.
Because it'll be a violation of freedom of speech and individual, freedom for them to investigate so-called Antifa, because Antifa is a belief and it's a action, anti-fascist action, which I would touch on right here, I guess a little bit, because I feel like, describing Antifa and all the good that these people that have put their safety and lives on the line have done, I can't just do it in a stupid Tucker Carlson video. I feel like I would have to do it like I did my incel video. I would have to put the phone down or use this camera, blow it up to scale, and just talk about the shit. But yeah, like, I don't know what to tell you, man.
But we know for certain that in cities across the country, right now, Antifa is mobilizing to commit violence. This is a political militia.
Oh yeah, and it's a decentralized movement. There's no such thing as a commander-in-chief of Antifa or some shit like that. These people do things independently of one another, and they don't, organize together to, go out and hurt people or whatever the fuck he's saying and stuff like that. These people literally only appear on the streets when somebody is doing fascism, whether it be the police, whether it be white supremacist militias or street gangs marching in the street. The only time I see is Antifa is when these people are out, hunting for blacks, pretty much. When, these Proud Boys and, National Social Club and, Neo-Confederates and Klansmen appear, Antifa appears. So it seems like if people, it kind of seems like to me, if people stop doing fascism, we won't have to see Antifa anymore. Funny how that works.
Those are the people you ought to be asking questions, and we're going to have time to do that. But right now, we are on the cusp of what many in law enforcement expect to be a long and violent
Yeah.
Subscribe to the